Well, hi. I'm Gary Turner, and a week or so ago, I had my 9th anniversary with my wife, Eileen. She's back there. You should stare at her. And I made a post about it on Instagram, and Pastor Darren immediately asked me if I would share it with the church today. And initially, my thought was, well, this is Father's Day, so what specifically does my anniversary have to do with the theme of Father's Day? But when I went back and reread the post, it became pretty clear to me that I really wrote more about God the Father, I think, than I did my wife, which may sound insulting to some people, I guess. But I talked about that with Eileen, and she agreed, and she said something pretty cool, which was, she said, that's probably the sweetest thing that anybody could say about me, is that the best thing about me is God. So I guess I'll read through it as Pastor Darren asked me to, and see if you can pick up on some of the characteristics of God the Father through explaining, I guess, my journey to becoming a Christ follower and becoming a dad, and meeting my true dad. 9 years ago, I married my favorite person on earth. I didn't think it was possible, but I love her more now, and I'm certain that I'll love her more in another 9 years. When we met, I thought that I knew the Lord, but I did not. I was content to be a good guy, which was foolishness. As a parent, I quickly discovered that I am, on my own, a wildly unreliable moral authority in the lives of my children. I didn't have the answers to life's most meaningful questions, and I didn't want my children to just be like me or to do what I say simply because I said so. That seemed to me to be a supremely arrogant approach to being a dad. So the answer was and is to trust in God's holy word and to point my kids to their perfect, righteous, merciful, faithful Father, a Father who will not misguide them or lead them into darkness, a good Father, one that I seek to follow but could never replace. Eileen showed me what an authentic faith looked like, even through her struggles and imperfections. She led the way, teaching my children to fear God first, placing His word at the center of our lives, and in the process, she helped to soften my heart and revealed God's truth to me, truth that I had been seeking after for years, but in all the wrong places. But just knowing the truth wasn't enough. Once I was able to humble myself and confess that I had lived a selfish life in direct disobedience to God for 30 years, Jesus entered my life and immediately began to change my heart and my mind. It's like the fog of the world around me was lifted, and I could see clearly for the first time. It was indescribably satisfying, like I had been thirsty for 30 years and finally had a drink of living water. Today, my life and the life of my family have been changed forever because of Eileen's love of Jesus. The fruit of following Jesus is clear, not just in my own life, but in the way that my children love one another. In that regard, I'm also equally thankful to Eileen's parents for raising her to love God first. God blesses obedience, and you, Mom and Dad, have blessed me more than you could possibly know simply through your diligence and obedience in teaching your children to love God. So that describes a little bit about my journey to becoming a dad. I wasn't a believer. I thought I was when we met, and Eileen's witness over a few years of marriage softened my heart and moved me towards God, and changed my whole life, and will change the life of my kids and their kids. And if we look back further, going back to her parents and their parents. So I guess like Eileen, I hope that someday that someone will say the best thing about Gary is not Gary. I think that's probably a good prayer for anybody who's a Christ follower, is to direct any attention towards yourself up to God And so I guess it's a good question to ask yourself, is as a Christ follower, do you feel like as you interact with people day to day and your colleagues and your coworkers and your neighbors, are you pointing them towards Christ, or are you content to just be a good guy like I was? And if you say you're a Christ follower, but you're content to be a good guy, how does that add up? So I guess that's a challenge to everyone here. Another point is you can't know what your impact to future generations will be. Only God knows that, but it's likely tremendous. Your witness matters. It matters not to just you and your family, but to your kids and their kids and your friends and your neighbors. You might impact thousands of people without realizing it. As a father, I realized that the result of my boldness of faith and diligence in teaching my kids has a huge impact. So I'm thankful for the fathers in my life. I'm thankful to Eileen for not only giving me the privilege of being a dad, but also helping to introduce me to my Heavenly Father, who I didn't know. And there's nothing better than that. So that's what I have to share with you guys. So, thank you for listening.